Hi, welcome to Ames Responds to COVID-19, a question and answer program where Ames area organizations respond to COVID-19 questions. I'm Susan Guiasta, the Public Relations Officer with the City of Ames. On today's show, we're talking with Steve Sullivan, Director of Marketing and Community Relations with Mary Greeley Medical Center, and with City Attorney Mark Lambert. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
A couple of things have happened since our last Ames Response episode ran. Iowa State University began holding classes, and they have tested all the students in campus housing. The second thing was a Test Iowa clinic has opened here in Ames. And thirdly, the Ames City Council has passed a face covering ordinance. We'll get to all of those, but first let's start with the Test Iowa clinic site. Steve Sullivan, what can you tell us about this site and how does somebody access it?
The Test Iowa Clinic site in Ames opened last week. Test Iowa has sites and they have clinics. Sites are run by National Guard. Clinics are run in partnership with an area healthcare provider, in this case, Mary Greeley. So we're operating Test Iowa, and we were able to establish it in Ames by working with the city, the county, the university, a variety of healthcare organizations in the area, including McFarland Clinic. It is out at the Research Park. Prior to this, the closest Test Iowa locations have been in Marshalltown and Des Moines. So it's a real benefit for people, especially when there are so many Iowa State students wishing to get tested. It's been going very well. It's been very busy. Today is actually filled up, this being Wednesday. After Labor Day, and Friday will probably fill up quick as well. So it's a drive-through clinic. It's out at the Research Park in a parking lot across from Provisions Restaurant. So you'll see it just across the way. To get an appointment, you need to take the Test Iowa assessment at testiowa.com. You take the assessment. If you qualify for a test, you'll be given an initial list of locations. You will not see the Story County Clinic on that list. You must click on additional options. A second list comes up. You'll want the local options. Then the second list comes up and we're at the bottom. Story County Test Iowa Clinic is at the bottom. Click on that and that will wind up, you'll get a QR code sent to your email. You'll also get a text message. You need that QR code when you set up your appointment or come to your appointment. How do you set up the appointment? Well, you have to make a phone call in this case. Unfortunately, the Test Iowa site does not make that number very easy. However, I can give it to you. It is 800-866-3492. Those instructions that I just went over have been posted on a number of Facebook pages, including the hospital and the city. Also, you can find them on our COVID page if you go to the hospital's website.
So Steve, you mentioned appointments today and Friday. You missed a few days in there, and that is because it's not open every day. Is that correct?
It is not. At this point, it is open from 12:30 to 7:30, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. A lot of that, the availability of the clinic is really kind of governed by the state and the resources, primarily testing supplies. So we will hopefully be able to add more time or more days or both if demand requires it.
Okay. You mentioned Iowa State. We know that Iowa State has started holding classes, and we also know that Iowa State went through a tremendous number of testing all the students who are living on campus housing. We are experiencing an increase in the numbers of positive COVID tests in Story County. Are there any trends in those numbers that you think deserve some attention?
Well, the number of positive cases has been, over the last couple of weeks, has definitely been driven by that 18 to 25-year-old age category, that typical, stereotypical college age range. And we've seen the majority of the positive cases being in that age range. We are still seeing that. However, we're also seeing the 40-plus set numbers in those categories ratcheting up ever so slightly, which can raise some concerns about community spread, possibly resulting from those large numbers of younger people who are testing positive. Right now, it's not, the younger group is still driving the positive cases, but again, we're seeing an uptick in that 40 plus age range.
And as you've seen an increase in the positive tests, are you also seeing an increase in hospitalizations?
Not necessarily, no. We average about, since this whole situation began, we average about 7 to 13 COVID patients a day. We've been on the high end of that over the last month and a half. This week, however, we're down on the low end. I think we've only got 5 actually today. But again, that number changes every day. It literally changes every day. And but right now we're on the low end, and hopefully that's a trend that maintains.
Okay, so those numbers have been, the positive test numbers have been up, and we hope to see them come back down. But let's switch gears a little bit here. That bump in positive COVID tests was noted by the Ames City Council. Mark Lambert, Ames City Attorney, tell us a little bit more about the recently passed ordinance regarding face coverings.
Hey, thanks, Susan. The Ames City Council has passed an ordinance, which is a law that applies in the city limits of Ames, in the entire city. And that ordinance requires that people wear a face covering that completely covers their nose and mouth while they're in settings where they are around other people, essentially. So that public settings, businesses where the public's invited in, that's grocery stores, convenience stores, any kind of a retail store. And it also applies to gatherings outside, but you know, you don't have to wear a face covering if you can maintain 6 feet of social distance from others that are not your family members or household members. So, you know, the thought was that face coverings are a proven way to reduce the transmission of the coronavirus that causes COVID-19, and so the council adopted this ordinance. I've seen some online questions about whether this is actually a real law in Ames, and I can assure you, yes, it is. At the state level, when a law is passed, it's called a statute. The local level, a law is called an ordinance. This is a city ordinance, and it is the law, and people are expected to follow the law.
One thing I noticed with this ordinance, every ordinance requires 3 readings. This ordinance, they were all passed on the same day.
Yes, typically those 3 readings will happen at 3 separate city council meetings, but there is a provision of the Iowa Code that allows city councils to adopt an ordinance in one night if they wish, and it takes a supermajority vote of the city council to do so. So the council voted to do that, and then they did all 3 readings in one night, and that's because they felt there was a sense of urgency to this with the numbers skyrocketing in Ames and Story County. They wanted to get the ordinance in effect as quickly as possible.
So the ordinance went into effect on September 4th. I noticed this ordinance actually has an expiration date.
Yes, it expires at the end of the year, so after December 31st, 2020. And that is unless the council takes action to either end the ordinance earlier by repealing it, or they can take action to extend that expiration date into the future. And that all depends on, you know, what the COVID situation is at that point.
Great, thanks, Mark. Again, if you have questions on that ordinance or you want to read the ordinance in its entirety, you can do so by going to our website, cityofames.org/face covering. You can get a copy of the ordinance, and you can also read some FAQs about what the ordinance covers and doesn't cover. I want to thank our guests, Mark Lambert, City Attorney for the City of Ames, and Steve Sullivan with Mary Greeley Medical Center. Please remember, Ames Responds is an opportunity for you to ask questions to local organizations regarding COVID-19. If there's something that you're curious about, let us know. We can put together another program and include your question. Call us with your questions on the city's hotline at 515-239-5670 or email us at covid19@cityofames.org. The City of Ames does have COVID-19 information on our website. Another great webpage to bookmark, cityofames.org/COVID-19, no hyphen. Well, that's our show. Thanks for watching.